So, if you're the kind of person who likes warbirds and civilian aircraft and likes peanut butter in your chocolate, then this is the plane for you. This is the Seagull Models RV-8 Old Crow from Legend Hobbies. Now, this is a 77-inch span balsa and ply traditionally constructed, almost ready to fly aircraft, meant for 35 to 40 cc engines or electric equivalent. And it features flaps and even lights. So this should really be an interesting build. It's a nice low wing aerobatic plane. RVs are super popular in the home built world, and they also tend to make really good model airplanes. So will this one also be a really good model airplane? Well, let's find out. Real quick before we get started, I just wanted to mention that the HobbyView apparel store is open. Show your support for this channel with HobbyView branded shirts, caps, mugs, and more. Just go to hobbyview.myspreadshop.com. The Old Crow has old innovation stripes already installed over olive drab iron-on covering. I noted the large ailerons and inboard flaps. Woodwork looked really well done with plenty of glue. Note the fiberglass mounting tabs in the wings. You can tell they spent some time on the covering job. There's also a nice set of fiberglass wheel pants. And a snazzy 17-ounce fuel tank. Metal landing gear legs. Solid foam tires. That are 3.5 inches in diameter. You also get a 3.7-inch plastic spinner, but I likely will not use it. And a generic civilian pilot bust. It was nice to see a fairly intricately painted fiberglass cowl with heavy weave. I noticed the fuselage engine firewall has some right thrust built in. I also like the black painted cockpit and lightweight fuselage structure. Looking inside, you can really see the high level of engineering in the fuselage structure. I'm not sure if the strap of covering has a purpose or just an artifact of manufacturing. The instrument cluster is distinctive. I like to organize various parts bags into bins, where I found some lights and a large sheet of decals. Manual is the usual fare from Seagull. Lots of black and white photos with details for gas and electric setups. With that, it was time to start assembly by starting with the wing controls. I immediately noticed that while the manual shows CA hinges, the hinges in the kit are actually epoxy type hinges. Also, a couple of hinges were slightly sticky in movement, so some trimming with a knife was the cure. Then, to prevent the glue from literally gumming up the works, some grease is applied to the hinge joints. All greased up, the hinges can now be glued into place. The 30-minute epoxy gives plenty of time to position everything. After some light sanding, the double-sided fiberglass control horns are glued in. I temporarily used a bolt to keep the sides aligned while carrying. The rudder arms were interfering with each other, so I trimmed them down a bit. While that dried, I decided to play with the wing lights a bit. They can be directly powered by a 12-volt battery like this 3-cell LiPo pack without the need of a current limiting resistor. You get 2 colors for the different wings, though the FAA may not consider them legal colors. Anyways, the servos I'll be using is the venerable high-tech D645 high voltage types. Servo boxes make great storage containers. I got lazy and used a drill to install the threaded rods. After installing the servos, I decided to glue the wingtip lights. I'll glue on the clear tips later. But now it's on to the fuselage. You'll need to cut away the covering over the elevator servo mounts. The stabilizers themselves slide in on the spar and are bolted to the fuselage. Great for transportation options. The rudder uses a pull-pull cable that requires some assembly of the end linkages. I like to tape the rudder so it doesn't move while I set and crimp the wires. Tailwheel is pretty simple to install. Same for the main gear. Though I did have a hole that was misaligned. Dremel tool to the rescue. To find the correct offset for the wheel collars, I just held the wheel pants on while I marked the shaft. Wheel pants have blind nuts in them for mounting screws. All right, so far so good. I think everything's going together really pretty nice, other than that one hole that refused to cooperate, but that was rectified rather quickly. So now I'm at the point where I need to find out how I'm going to mount the engine. And so for motivation, I will be using the old smooth power of the Stinger 40cc twin, the exact same engine that I used in my shock cub. And in fact, this is the engine that came out of the shock cub. Anyways, so I'm going to mount this puppy up. This should be pretty nice. I look forward to it. It fits quite nicely, I think, inside the cowl. Looks like there's plenty of room for this baby in there. Get in there. Yeah. Smells good, doesn't it? So I thought it was great. It's a nice wide cowl. It should look cool with the twin cylinders in there. You can see that as well. So smooth, cool looking, good power, well broken in engine. Should be a no-brainer. So I am going to see how I'm going to hook this puppy up to this little firewall here and see how she goes. I will need to drill the engine mounting holes, so I first drew some center lines, then measured the bolt hole distances, and marked the drilling points. Cowl seemed to line up well, but I'll need to cut out openings for the muffler extensions to be sure. I use my old technique of making drilling templates out of manila folder parts. I like to start with a powder hole, then use a step bit. Good fit, but it wasn't quite perfect. Bolts on the carburetor also needed their own holes. I also added a hole for the venturi since it was so close. Now everything lined up great, and I could drill the holes for the mounting screws. I noticed the kit comes with rubber grommets to prevent marring of the surface of the cowl. Throttle servo has its own little mounting box that you glue into place. I decided to add a smoke system, so I'll need to install these smoke injectors into the muffler. The muffler walls are pretty thin, so I added both high-temp thread lock to the threads and high-temperature RTV to the whole assembly. This should hold everything together. Smoke puck fits neatly under the engine firewall standoff, with the ignition module going on the side. The throttle linkage took some creative bends. I found a smoke tank that I could fit next to the fuel tank. Time to add power switches for ignition and flight controls. Everything plumbed and wired. Note the low-profile fuel tank filler valves that fit under the canopy. I also found these neat aluminum fuel vent exhausts on eBay. Before you can mount the wings, more covering will need to be removed for the wing tubes, screw tabs, and servo wires. One tab was ever so slightly not aligned with the screw hole, so drilling it out slightly fixed the issue. Alright, E-Day. This engine came out of my shock cub and hadn't been run in a while, so it took several false starts to work itself out. But once running, I just had to test out the smoker. Yeah, that's the good stuff. James Bond would be proud. Time for some final touches, such as gluing on the wing light lenses. And also the included pilot bust. Next was the big canopy, where I used tiny screws instead of glue. I wanted the lights to flash, so I found these 12-volt flasher modules on Amazon. I'll leave a link in the description. A check of the light flasher circuit. I used a CGR stand from Legend Hobby to check the balance. Wow, no nose weight needed. Still not done. Details like the vacuum forward exhaust stacks. I use bits of tape to have consistent alignment. Peel stick decals will need to be cut out. Oops, I almost put the wrong star on the fuselage. This one is actually for the wing. That was close. Wrong one. There we go. Note the white border on this one. Straight from the satellite of love. Doesn't Old Crow sound like an alcoholic drink? Okay, she's all dolled up and ready to show her stuff. So join me next time where I'll take her for a spin. Hi, thanks for watching. Please take a look at the video description below for special HobbyView sales and discounts. Your purchases help support this channel. Happy modeling!